Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage producer of Visitor Experience with the Smithsonian Institution, Samir Bittar.
Good morning. How many of you, by show of hands, has ever been to the Smithsonian? Wow, I was thinking half. That's like 3/4. So this is for you. Actually, it's for all of you, because the Smithsonian is for everyone, but physical world that we still all live in, right? So our opportunity, so I assumed the role of director of the Central Office of Visitor Experience in 2013. A few years before that and a year after that, we ran several seminal studies to understand the visitor experience. It may surprise you that just around 2012, 2013, we began to put the visitor, the user, the end user, smack dab in the middle of our design process. I liked what Aaron said about understanding, listening to your end user, knowing their pain points, and building systems around that. It's not rocket science, but it's something that we haven't really done as a society up until very recently, and now Smithsonian is doing just that. So we have this research that told us how visitors use us, how they don't use us, what their challenges, what their pain points are. We plotted this along a journey map. For those of you who don't know, you should know what a journey map is. This is a fabulous way to understand your users beginning from when they discover your product or when they discover the Smithsonian, when they decide how they plan traveling to the Smithsonian, their in-museum experiences, and of course, those post-visit connections with the brand, with the content, with our collections. So big opportunities to improve the way that they experience. So it really means improving their engagement with the Smithsonian, because we believe that a more engaged visitor is a visitor that actually is a more informed citizen, and that's sort of one of our endpoints. So it's a big institution. We are 168 years old. We have 19 museums. We have 6 research centers. We operate in 4 countries, 3 cities. We have a lot. Every year we welcome 28 million visits across those buildings that are made up by about 22 million unique people. It's a big daily operation. The centerpiece of the Smithsonian, the windows onto our collection, is on the National Mall. How many of you have been to the National Mall? Okay. Good American, so you know your capital. So the Smithsonian complex, again, it's much broader than just Washington, like I said, but the centerpiece of the museum and the research happens on the National Mall. In fact, the first half of the National Mall, from Congress to the Washington Monument, is the primary Smithsonian complex. We have a few more up in the downtown area. We have the National Zoo, and of course, there are others throughout DC as well as in New York City. We have 2 in New York City. And so looking at the research, talking to visitors, we understand that it's very hard for them, maybe it was very hard for some of you, to get your mind around what you wanted to do or what to do during your 1-day, 3-day, maybe 4-hour visit to Washington. So my mantra is improve orientation, improve physical orientation, and improve thematic orientation. Improve physical orientation, helping them not only navigate within a building, a 3 or 4 floor building, but also across our several museums. And thematic, everything from art to zoology. It's a lot of content. Not everyone wants to go and be exposed to every bit of that content. And so we needed filters, we needed tools in place to filter massive amounts of content. 400 exhibitions on any given day, 1,000 public programs on any given day. We need to filter that down to what specifically you want, and therefore to produce a more engaged visitor experience. So specifically, what we're set out to solve is to redesign a visitor center that is in the Smithsonian Castle, that is 150 years old, built, designed by James Renwick, opened in 1855, was our first national museum. Quickly thereafter, it outgrew the collections, and so a second building was designed right next to it, the Arts and Industry Building. So that building was and now is the administrative headquarters of the Smithsonian, where the secretary sits and other senior leaders of the Smithsonian. But the first floor is for visitors, and it has been a visitor center for about 40 years. But we hadn't really upgraded it in about 20 years. So on the occasion of this research and putting the visitor dead center, we looked through exactly what they needed and looked to design a new center for them that satisfied that. So specifically, we know that you need to understand the scope and scale. Scope meaning art to zoology, fossils to funk, a lot of content, a lot of collections, and scale. Again, 19 museums, 11 of which are on the National Mall, and another 14 in Washington. We want you to feel oriented back to that thematic orientation and physical orientation so you can get around, you know what you want, and you can get there. And understanding specifically what the castle is for. Part of the research had us look at 2 years of user-generated reviews on Yelp and TripAdvisor. And the takeaway, in fact, the name of the study was, skip it. It's pretty powerful, right? Skip it. Beautiful architecture, but not much inside. I mean, that shot us in the heart. Skip it. This is our country's first, anyway, you know the deal. So it wasn't hard to sell leadership. I got the money we needed to do this. So our objective specifically in the project, again, to communicate that scale, to talk about the mission, to make sure folks, Americans, knew the mission. Anyone here know what the mission of the Smithsonian is? It's 6 words. I'll give a personal tour to the Smithsonian. Anyone can tell me what the increase and diffusion of knowledge. It's pretty noble. It's pretty simple. And that's our original mission, and it stands today, the increase and diffusion of knowledge. Our job, about 6,000 employees every day, and another 6,000 volunteers every day work to increase knowledge for humanity and give it away. We democratize knowledge. And we want to make sure that visitors can get at that knowledge. Of course, we want them to have a rich visitor experience and, again, modernize, improve the look and feel of the Great Hall, the central receiving space of the castle. So we took this in 2 phases. It was a very big project, very ambitious. We're talking about 6,000 square feet of space here with a lot of stakeholders, internal, external. And so we broke this into 2 phases. I'll talk to you about phase 1 today. So it's not enough to put digital, or rather to focus only on digital, right? It's just not enough. In fact, a lot of our research, a lot of visitors tell us they don't want digital experiences in the museums. They get enough, I'm going to paraphrase, actual quotes. They don't want digital at the museums because they have digital at home, in their pocket, at school, at work, like you're all trying to do at Boeing, et cetera. And visitors want the analog in the museums. They want to see the authentic artifact, the real object, the stunning piece of art. They don't want a digital interface. So it's not about just blindly putting in digital, which is what we've done as managers of museums across the country for 10 or 15 years since it's been affordable and it's sexy. We just drop it in. And then we're sort of, why aren't they using it? So we studied, and now we know. So when we go and build digital, we first look, we talk to users, we study why and how, and that's what I'll talk to you about today. But again, it's not enough just to put the digital in the space. We had to rethink everything from the ground up. So for our finishes had to be modernized. We had carpet over this beautiful terrazzo, 1855 original terrazzo, but we had carpeted in the 60s, like we did in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So we ripped out that carpet and we restored this beautiful terrazzo. All the finishes, we modernized all the surfaces. Props, or a shout out to DuPont, who gave us a tremendous gift of their Corian, very expensive substrate material. And that's the background of all of our furniture and our signage. So finishes, amenities, rethinking everything from the cafe stores all the way down to the seating, improving and modernizing the seating options. And then, of course, at the epicenter of it all is the function, understanding where we fail, where the pain points are with our visitors, and creating from scratch solutions that not off the shelf, right in development with the vendors, products that specifically meet called out needs from the visitors. So trip planner kiosks, kiosks that help visitors plan specifically to their needs, membership kiosks, a way for a carrot for us to get emails from them so we have more personal one-on-one relationships with our visitors, and promoting our baby Smithsonian channel. So to the point of letting visitors know what the castle is for, why it's there, what the visitor centers do, we, looking at that journey map, understand that we need to broadcast, we need a strategic communication line, right, from from their arrival at the airport, their journey to the city, at the hotel, in the cab or metro, to the campus, into the building. So broadcast in those outer regions, into the castle where we showcase the collections, the programmings of the museums themselves, explain the Smithsonian, explain the mission, orient them now physically and thematically, and begin to figure out what they want. So here's the castle, here's what's on view at the museums, explain what it's about, begin to orient them, and at that point, at that sort of vector, now you can begin to edit away content and give them exactly what they want or need. And that's how it looks like physically on the layout. So it wasn't just in our communication and marketing, it's how we laid out the floor, understanding how visitors arrive into public spaces, how they, is it Joseph Pines with the Experience Economy or How We Shop? Great book about how humans arrive in public spaces and how much we can process at any given second or moment, and it's too much to put it all up front. So we pulled furniture back, we pulled furniture away, and we strategically located furniture to sort of mapped it to what visitors can, to what their capacity is upon arrival in the building. So digital, that's why we're here, right? So now I'll dive into first these finishes, and then the digital pieces. So I'm a huge advocate. I travel the country, sort of presenting at conferences like this, evangelizing visitor-centric design. And it's surprising that we didn't have signage up in the visitor center that was visitor-centric. Sure, we had the name of the Hirshhorn and a directional arrow, but they didn't really know what the Hirshhorn was. They really didn't know what the Frere Sackler galleries were. So we added a little parenthetical, Frere Sackler, the Asian art museums. And then we added something very simple, but you just don't see it in public signage around America. You see it a lot more of it in Europe. The simple, how far from here timestamp, right? So from the castle to the American Indian Museum, it's about a 10-minute walk, right? So simple. Not rocket science, but it's just not something that we do in public spaces, at airports, around cities. I mean, right out here, there are all kinds of, I study signage, that's sort of my job. And I'm looking at all the pylons and signage out here on this campus, and it has directional arrows, but you don't know how far away these things are. So anyway, thinking incrementally back to Aaron's, think big, act small. So looking at those very small, almost commas in a sentence elements of design, and make a huge impact on the visitor experience. Back to the showcase, putting simple banner graphics up. They weren't there before. Banner graphics up that highlight the exhibitions now on view at the various museums, or the public programs on view at those museums on the National Mall. And then again, two surfaces, not only modernizing the surfaces, but understanding the function, the form and function of our furniture. So it may surprise you that only about 40%, about 4 out of 10 humans use an information desk or a welcome desk of sorts. Most of us, especially in America, are more sort of improvisers, sort of explore on our own types. Imagine a lot of you in the audience are sort of like that. You bypass the information desk. Well, traditionally, at the airport I was just in, it's all the information you need is centered only there. And we need to, pull that out and place it elsewhere in the physical spaces for those types of people who don't like to go to information desks. So we redesigned it. We shrunk it, which I got a lot of pushback from. We lowered it. We remodeled it. And something else that I received a lot of flack for is I took some of the functions away from our staff at the desk. And I really heard about that. And one thing that we did, traditionally, a visitor walked up, once we began having laptops and computers, at the desk was probably in the late 90s. And we had their laptop with a computer, a visitor would walk up, ask a question, and the volunteer would then sort of disappear behind a screen and pop up. And they lost that one-on-one connection. And so I thought, why do they even have to go to the volunteer for all this information? In fact, 60% of visitors don't want to. So let's pull that function out, not exclusively, but also place an interactive at the desk. Again, not designing digital for digital's sake, but specifically what the user needs. And so this is where we engaged for wins. I think we bought their platinum or gold package, and we had them come out for a week And we really pushed together, we really pushed the boundaries of their technology. This is about 2 years ago, to put in place an interactive, user-driven experience that helped visitors find content or find the building they wanted through various means. And I'll sort of walk you through that now. So it's not too complicated, but it just hadn't existed before. Visitors can pull up the map and click on the building that they know or are interested in, have a digital PDF of the floor plan of the museum, get oriented physically to the inside of the building. If they're not interested in the map itself, they can go directly to exhibitions by topic. So I'm with kids and families, and we only show them the content that matches the kids and family, or any of the other exhibition topics on view. Alternately, we can also plug in DC information. One of the most popular questions at Smithsonian information desks is non-Smithsonian information. So we're a good public partner with National Park Service, and so we need to plug in that information, even though it isn't our mission. Again, you can focus in just on the museum itself and pull up their programs or their events. And then looking at amenities across the museum. Which museums have Wi-Fi? They all don't have Wi-Fi so far. Which have restaurants? They all don't have restaurants. So again, understanding, what are the most popular questions, the FAQs, and designing products around them. Again, not rocket science, but until this, we had a lot of, our design process looked like a lot of master degree holders, staff at Smithsonian, sitting around a table, deciding what the visitors needed. What do the visitors need? So we just did it. I know, right? And I think that's what a lot of companies and sectors have done traditionally. And so, pulling their voice, the voice of the visitor, right into the experience or into the product. So that is the kiosk is good for general broad orientation to content, to the scope and scale. Now we're into the help phase. Now we're into the help products. And so again, we knew what we needed. I wanted to have visitors build personalized itineraries. No museum in the world has this. It's not a product that really exists for the market, but we needed it. So we partnered with a vendor to come up with just that, personalized itinerary, and I call it Trip Planner. It's pretty straightforward. You walk up to the system, and instead of you having to hunt and peck through a website, through all the exhibitions, 400 of them, all the events, 1,000 of them, stop. What are you interested in? Which of the topics? You're interested in photography, pop culture, American history? Great. Everything else is pushed away. Just those 3 topics. When are you visiting? Next Sunday? All right. For how long? 4 hours? Gotcha. You visiting with kids or adults? Just adults? Gotcha. You want to eat? Shop? I want to shop. I don't want to eat. Okay, wheelchair, baby stroller? Different entrances, right? So we take that information, we run it through several algorithms, we ping several databases, we do the work, right? We do the work at Smithsonian for the visitor, and out produces an hour-by-hour itinerary, arrive at 10 o'clock, go through floor 3, 2, 1 at Natural History, walk down the street 4 minutes away to the Hirshhorn, walk to level 2, that's what you wanted to see, walk out, go to lunch at American Indian. Done. Right? Not complicated, pulling in a Google API for the mapping structures, pulling in the PDFs of the museum maps. Again, but listening to them, listening to visitors, what they need, and putting the kind of help in the center that they look for. We've had since the 90s a beautiful old school diorama or model, a scale model of the National Mall. And I was going to pull it. I want a digital, pull that. And in our focus groups, visitors told us, no, don't lose that. I'll show you a graphic. Visitors tell us, there's something about maps. I'll get out of the way. There's something about maps or models. And several visitors in 2 different focus groups said to me, which blew me away, and they couldn't quite put words to it in the beginning, but we kept pushing, and they said, I don't know, it's like being God over the city, and you can see how it all works and where it's all at. Immediately, we needed to, not, can you go back? There we go, thank you. We needed to not get rid of it, we just needed to modernize it. So we stripped it down, we got rid of that one, but we've built from the ground up a new table using 3D printing, underlit, screens, I'm here, I want to go to natural history, an animation flies off, maps where you are to there. Again, that same orientation, scope, and scale, but in a different format. Because again, 22 million people need and use very differently from each other. No two are alike, right? Well, no two categories are alike. So some folks will want to use a trip planner, other folks don't want that. Other folks just want to. So again, listening and designing specifically for it's more expensive, but in the end, you get a more engaged visitor. This is all for them, and this one's for us. So we do want to make more one-on-one connections, more personal connections with all of you, with Americans. We have a tremendous amount of resources available to artists all over the country, to educators all over the country, to business owners. I mean, our collections are your collections. They are the national collections, and they're free. But unfortunately, most folks only come in contact with them when they come to our museums. And so, of course, most of Americans along the eastern seaboard are who come to the Smithsonian. And that falls off as you come west to Colorado and California and Hawaii and Alaska. So we have it all online, but a lot of you don't know about it. si.edu, collections.si.edu. collections.si.edu. So we need to get email addresses from you so that we can then tell you what's available. So we talked to a firm out in Oregon, brilliant idea, very simple. One of the most engaging, the tool that engages visitors most in the museums, you have it in your pocket right now, is your camera, right? Your camera. Visitors of all ages, they tell us, engagement goes up and satisfaction goes way up when they take photographs of. We used to have volunteers who'd be grouchy and shout at people on their tour who had their cameras out or had their phones out. We had to retrain them. Actually, they're probably posting on social media. They're probably blogging, taking pictures of the collection. It's a tremendous educational tool. So leveraging that, we knew the whole ego factor. So we built a portrait tool that has visitors take a picture of themselves. Again, back to the scope orientation. Select which of Smithsonian categories interests them. There's also all the collection. And then the system goes and builds from 30 to 50,000 images of the collection. It then builds a mosaic portrait of yourself, which is quite stunning. People really love this. That's the carrot. You'll see down the lower right-hand side. Email us. You can email this photo for free. Give us your email address, we pop it over. Something like 600,000 emails in the first year of it being in operation. So again, also a little self-serving, ultimately in the service of Americans and visitors. So that's how it looks. That's phase one. Redesigned, visitor-centric visitor center. How ironic. And now we're on to phase two. So if you happen to be in Washington after March of 2017, I invite you in. I'll give you a tour. We will have a new 33 feet tall, 20 feet, about 3 of these screens high and about that wide, new digital screen that communicates very emotionally, all emotion, the power of the new Smithsonian channel that launched in 2007. So I encourage you to check out Smithsonian channel. Thank you.